All right, get ready, everyone, because we are about to take a deep dive into Arsenal's wild Champions League journey. We've got all the match reports and stats from that incredible victory against Girona. Trust me, there's a lot to unpack here. Our goal today is to really break down how Arsenal secured that spot in the round of 16. And maybe we'll even unearth a few surprises along the way. You ready for this?
Oh, absolutely. Always something fascinating when you look closer at those tactics and the individual performances that really drive a big win. You know?
Okay, so let's start by putting things in perspective. I mean, Arsenal has reached the knockout stages of the Champions League for like 16 consecutive seasons in a row. That's got to be some kind of record, right? The last time they didn't make it was way back in the 2002-2003 season.
It really is a remarkable achievement. It shows you how committed they are to playing at that highest level of European football for so long.
Now, let's zero in on this specific match against Girona. Arsenal ultimately won 2-1, their sixth victory out of 8 Champions League matches, which landed them right in third place in the league phase. This means they skip those playoffs and head straight to the round of 16.
Exactly. And that victory really solidifies their position as a top contender in the tournament. But looking past the final score, the match itself had some pretty interesting twists and turns.
Right. Like, you'd think with Arsenal controlling the ball so much early on, 43% of the game was in Girona's defensive third in those first 25 minutes. They should have scored first, right?
Well, that's where things get a little unexpected.
Yeah.
Despite all that pressure from Arsenal, Girona, a team that was already eliminated and with like very limited experience on the European stage, they managed to score first.
That's right. Danjuma, remember him from Bournemouth and Tottenham? Well, he surprised everyone with that absolute screamer from distance. I bet that brought back some not-so-fond memories for Arsenal fans, like Ronaldo's goal against them back in 2009, similar vibe.
It was a stunning goal, no doubt about it. And it kind of highlighted a potential weakness for Arsenal, maybe defending against those long-range shots. Something for other teams to think about as the tournament heats up.
It makes you wonder, if they had trouble with that against Girona, how are they going to handle those powerhouse teams in the knockout stages?
That's a great question. And don't forget, this was the first goal Arsenal conceded from open play this entire Champions League season. So it does raise some eyebrows about their defensive stability, even if they haven't faced a ton of shots from distance.
So despite Arsenal's strong start, all that domination, they found themselves trailing against a team that, on paper, they should have easily beaten.
Exactly. It really shows Girona's grit, even when facing elimination. They definitely weren't going down without a fight.
Oh, absolutely not. But in the end, Arsenal fought back and clinched the win.
Yeah, and that's where we start to see their individual brilliance shine. Jorginho steps up, cools the cucumber, slots home a penalty to even the score. That's his second goal for Arsenal now, both from the penalty spot.
Which, keeps up his very specific trend in the Champions League. It's actually fascinating. All 9 of his goals in the tournament have been penalties.
It's impressive, that level of specialization. But you do wonder if Arsenal might need to mix up their scoring strategies a bit. What if Jorginho isn't available or, misses a penalty in a crucial moment? Relying too much on one method can be risky.
That's a really good point. But then things got even more exciting with young Ethan Nwaneri. What a goal! At just 17 years and 314 days old, he became the second youngest Englishman to score in the Champions League ever. Just behind Jude Bellingham. That's crazy. Talk about a rising star.
That goal was brilliant. The way he received the ball from Trossard, dribbled back out of the box to find that central position, then unleashed this powerful shot. Just wow, it was pure individual skill, and it completely turned the tide for Arsenal.
And all of that happened before halftime. That first half was a roller coaster.
Absolutely. From Arsenal dominating early on to that surprise goal from Girona then fighting back with the penalty and Nwaneri stunner. The first half had it all. But then came a moment that could have swung the momentum right back to Girona. VAR stepped in and disallowed what looked like a sure equalizer.
Oh, that was so close. For a moment there, it seemed like Girona was going to pull off another shocker. But VAR ruled it offside, just barely.
Talk about a nail-biter. That intervention just added another layer of drama to what was already a wild match.
All right, so we've covered a lot so far, and it's clear this match was anything but straightforward for Arsenal.
That disallowed goal really seemed to fire up Girona coming back for that second half. They were just relentless in their pursuit of that equalizer.
Yeah, it felt like they had something to prove. They came out swinging with even more intensity and determination. Remember that counterattack with Christian Stuani, their all-time leading scorer? He almost had his moment.
His finish was clean. For a second there, it looked like Girona was about to pull off this amazing comeback, but then, of course, VAR had other ideas.
Right. That tech can really change the game, huh?
It does ensure fairness, even if it sometimes messes with the flow of the game. In this case, Stuani was ruled just a hair offside.
What a relief that must have been for Arsenal. But just when you thought the drama was over, we got another penalty call in stoppage time. Handball in the box, giving Arsenal a chance to seal the deal.
And Sterling stepped up to take it.
And missed. Can you believe it?
It doesn't happen often for him, a missed chance to really put the game away. But in the end, it didn't change the outcome. Arsenal had already secured the win.
It's interesting, though, isn't it? Both of Arsenal's goals came in that first half. Did they kind of lose momentum after the break, or were they just playing it safe?
I wouldn't say they lost momentum. They kept creating chances throughout the second half. Gabriel and Timber both almost scored from those corners. And Nwaneri had another powerful shot that went just wide.
Oh, yeah, you're right. They weren't just sitting back defending their lead. They were still pushing forward looking for more goals.
Exactly. That's what defines this Arsenal team, that attacking mindset. They're relentless in their hunt for goals. Even when they're ahead, they don't just settle, they keep going for more.
Okay, so zooming out a bit, what does this win and their performance in the Champions League this season, what does it tell us about Arsenal's potential?
It really confirms their status as a serious contender in this tournament. 6 wins out of 8 is an impressive record. They've shown they can handle the pressure, they can adapt to different opponents, they've got the consistency, the resilience, and they have a knack for finding the back of the net even when they're facing unexpected challenges.
And let's not forget about that individual brilliance we've seen. Players like Nwaneri, Trossard, and Sterling, even though he missed that penalty.
Absolutely. This Arsenal squad is brimming with talent, and they've got depth in every position. They're playing with confidence and a swagger that's hard to ignore.
But even though Girona lost, they really put up a good fight. What are your takeaways from their performance?
Despite ending up at the bottom of their group, Girona proved they can hang with the best. They played with no fear, good tactical discipline. They gave some of Europe's top teams a real run for their money. Remember, they only lost to PSG, Liverpool, and AC Milan by a single goal each time.
Yeah, they were definitely no pushovers. They made Arsenal work hard for that victory.
Exactly, and that's important to remember. Sometimes in football, the score doesn't tell the whole story. Girona might not have won any silverware this time, but they earned the respect of their opponents and the fans.
For sure. So where does all of this leave Arsenal in the grand scheme of the Champions League? They're on to the round of 16, but what are their chances of going all the way?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? They've got the potential, the talent, and the momentum. But those knockout rounds are a whole different animal. The stakes are higher, the pressure is intense. Every match could be your last.
And like we saw in this match against Girona, even teams you might count out can pull off surprises. They can expose those vulnerabilities.
Speaking of vulnerabilities, there's one thing about Arsenal's squad that's got me thinking. It's their goalkeeper situation.
Oh, you're right. Neto's start against Girona marked the 4th different goalkeeper we've seen for Arsenal this season. What's up with that?
Yeah, it's pretty unusual. We've seen Raya, Setford, and Porter, too, this season. It's the first time the Gunners have used this many goalkeepers in a single season since 2020-2021.
It's definitely intriguing. Makes you wonder if it's a strategic choice by the manager, or maybe a response to injuries. Or could it mean they're still trying to find that truly dependable number 1?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's something to keep an eye on, especially considering that Arsenal's attack is on fire. But they've shown some cracks in their defense, particularly against those long shots.
So their attacking depth is a huge plus. But this goalkeeper situation could be a potential weak point as they go deeper in the tournament.
It's possible. It definitely raises questions about consistency and who they can really count on in those high-pressure moments. But on the flip side, this rotation could also mean that all 4 keepers are getting valuable experience, which could pay off down the road.
Yeah, that's a good point. It could be a smart move to keep their opponents guessing. Okay, so we've dissected the match, analyzed those performances, uncovered some interesting stats, and we've talked about potential strengths and weaknesses, but hold on tight because we're not done yet. There are a few more fascinating stats and observations we need to dig into. Okay, we're back for the final stretch of our deep dive into Arsenal's Champions League journey. We've talked about their impressive win over Girona, their tactics, and even some potential weaknesses. Now let's shift gears a bit and look at some interesting stats that really add another layer to this whole story.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating to see how this Arsenal team stacks up against their own history in the Champions League. For example, they've already scored 18 goals in this year's tournament. That's their highest goal tally at this stage since the 2013-2014 season.
Wow, that's impressive. It really shows how strong their attack is this season.
Absolutely. And it highlights how this team is evolving and finding new ways to break down those opponents. But what's even more remarkable is that 12 different players have contributed to those 18 goals.
So it's not just one or two star players carrying the team. It's a real team effort. Everyone's chipping in.
Exactly. And that depth and balance in their attack could be a major factor in their success as they head into those knockout stages. Because, let's face it, having multiple threats up front makes them so much harder to defend against.
For sure. But even with all that firepower, they still have that question mark hanging over their goalkeeper situation. 4 different keepers in one season is a lot. What are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely not common, and it does raise questions about who will be the main keeper when the pressure's really on. But it could also mean they've got a lot of talent in that position.
Maybe it's a good thing, especially if the manager's using these matches to see who performs best under pressure.
Yeah, that's a good point. These Champions League matches could be like a test for those keepers, helping the manager figure out who he can really trust in those big moments.
It adds another layer of intrigue to Arsenal's journey for sure. So we've analyzed the match, looked at the individual performances, uncovered some interesting stats, and we've even talked about potential strengths and weaknesses. What are your final thoughts on Arsenal's chances as they move forward in the Champions League?
Well, they've gotten through the league phase with both efficiency and style, showing tactical discipline and individual brilliance. They've got a strong attack, a solid midfield. And while there are those questions about their defense and the consistency of their goalkeeping, they've proven they can compete with the best.
I agree. It's going to be exciting to see how they handle the pressure and intensity of those knockout stages. Can they keep up this level of performance against the top teams in Europe?
That's the challenge ahead of them. But one thing's for certain. Arsenal is a team to watch. They're playing with purpose, belief, and a hunger that suggests they could achieve something special.
Dennis said it better myself. So to our listeners, as Arsenal charges into the next phase of the Champions League, who do you think poses the biggest threat to their ambitions? What are your predictions? Let us know your thoughts. And until next time, keep diving deep.